everyone. I'm Selena Hill, and this is the new norm on Black Enterprise. On today's episode, I have the privilege to speak with media personality, pop culture correspondent, podcaster, and entertainment journalist Loren LoRosa, who is a co host and producer on The Breakfast Club. She's the founder of the media and production company Brown Girl Grinding, and she is the host of the Latest with Loren LoRosa podcast. Loren, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. So, before we jump into your new show, which is really good, already been watching it, I want to start by just talking about the impact that co-hosting the Breakfast Club has had on your career. Like, how, if we could just
Mm.
start there, like how you landed the opportunity to even become an on-air talent for the show.
Um, well, one of I once the seat was open, I was like, okay, well, I knew I was going to quit my job at TMZ, and I felt like not enough people knew who I was or what I could do and what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, if I can guest host, even if it's just for a day, I can announce that basically I'm a free agent. Like I've left TMZ. Here's everything I'm able to do. I'll be able to show you what I'm able to do within that one. I honestly thought it was just gonna be like a one-time thing. And I'm like, if I just get that day, one show to show the people who don't already know me or the people who do know me for them to see me in a different light where you can actually see me as a personality, but also, bringing everything else that I bring from the producer side. I basically can be like, yo, I ain't got no job and I need a job. So where y'all at? And I'm free. Call me. That was honestly the goal of it. And my manager, Tanisha Cameron at Burke Entertainment, she knew someone who knew the EP because I was sending my reel and my resume to anybody I could. So if I had a friend that had ever even walked inside of iHeart, anybody that ever walked in the iHeart building, ever had talent on the Breakfast Club, publicists I knew, managers, whatever, I was sending my stuff to them and I'm like, yo, get this to Charlamagne and Envy. Like, so it got to a point where they started sending me Envy and Charlamagne's responses. And I didn't know Charlamagne, Envy. I didn't know anybody. I knew, like, I had been in contact with Angela Yee, but I didn't know her. I just been in contact. I set up the interview the day that she left the show. So I talked to her a bit. So I knew that, like, they were trying to figure out where it was that they were going to go. But that's all I knew. They didn't know me from a can of paint. Once I found out that you needed to get to the EP, a guy named Eddie F here who still works here, still the EP here, I was like, oh, we need to get to Eddie, like, period. Even if I got to go to the building and sit until Eddie comes downstairs. But then we ended up finding somebody who actually knew him and just passed over my stuff, and he was willing to meet with me. He didn't say yes at first to me being, in the guest hosting seat, but he was like, let's just meet in person. I met him. We talked for about like 2 hours, and I was like, okay, I think I have a shot. And then he was like, well, I got to ask the guys. And then he asked the guys. And they were like, well, Van Lathan, who I used to work with at TMZ, who's like a big brother to me, they was like, well, if he's cool with it, you know what I mean? Like, we're fine. And I was like, okay, bet. So I called Van, and Van was like, what? Like, Van already knew what I was on. I had called him when I was leaving. But he was like, yeah, for sure. So that's how it all happened.
And what year was this, Loren?
This was, what year was that? Oh, I guess Wilson was that 2023? 2023.
2023. I just,
Mhm.
your persistence, because like you said, you were reaching out to any and everybody. You went through different avenues just to get your reel in front of them, and you finally landed that EP job. And then when you
Mhm.
showed up, sis, you showed up so prepared. Like you really gave it your all. Can you talk about just the transition that you were going with at that time? Because, like you said, you left TMZ and then you started doing the Breakfast Club. What was that transition like?
Oh, it was a big transition. I still had an apartment in LA. My car was in LA. Majority of my stuff was in LA, but I was here on the East Coast because my grandmother had just had a like a small heart attack. So I couldn't leave. Like I could, but like I didn't feel comfortable with being in LA. I did the guest hosting one time, and that one time turned into a week. So I was now being called back to guest host more. I didn't have a place, like that was mine in Jersey or New York. I was just staying with friends. So it's different when you living in other people's spaces, and I was barely sleeping. I remember sometimes Eddie would call me and be like, "Hey, can you do the show tomorrow?" It'd be like 12 o'clock at night, and I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." I'm literally showering, calling somebody like, "Yo, can you drive me to New York? Drive me to, Jersey, to my homegirl's house, because it takes 2 hours to get from Delaware to New York." So by the time I would get here, it would literally be time for me to maybe nap for about an hour, 30 minutes, get myself together, and then show up at the show as if nothing happened, as if, you know what I mean, like everything was good, because I just knew, I was like, okay, bet this is an opportunity. This is a room. So I'm gonna show up prepared as much as I can. It was also a really big transition for me because coming from TMZ, people didn't really care about you personally. They might have cared about your takes. Like there were times where I pissed people off with the things that I was saying in TMZ, especially when it came to like race relations and politics and stuff like that. But they didn't really care for too long. They might have been upset at TMZ or really at Harvey Levin because he's the face of the brand. When I got the Breakfast Club, people cared. It was like, oh, you said that? We're gonna come find you and tell you all the reasons why we hate that. Oh, you're new. Like, and also I think I showed up at a time where, there was other, like, there was just so much going on here, so many different people doing the seat. Jess was here religiously. So it was like, if you were new, they were like, who the hell is this girl? And why does she think that she needs to be there? The audience was like, Breakfast Club's audience, like when I say they lock in with you, they lock in. And they lock in whether they like you or they don't. My first go around here, I remember like the first couple days, it was like, oh, we love her, we love her. And then after that, it was like, I was like, yo, every comment I'm getting is like crazy. I didn't know how to deal with that. Like, I think I came on like a maybe a Tuesday. By like Thursday, I had to turn my phone off. Like I couldn't even, the amount of people calling me that were happy for me, and then just all of the social media and like people commenting, I wasn't used to it. That was the biggest transition of like, okay, now all of a sudden, go. You're the star. You're the, you know what I mean? People care about you because when you sit in these seats up here, your personality and you have a brand and you have a voice and you did like, that was different for me. That was probably like the biggest, everything was happening at the same time, but that was like, whew, okay. All
It
right.
We could only imagine because, like you said, you were still doing on camera work at TMZ. You already had your social media, you had your brand, but sitting in the Breakfast Club seat means so much. And I'm one of those people in the audience. I was leaving my comments like when they were doing the guest host. I was like, "Yes, go!" I was cheering for Jason. I was cheering for you. I was cheering for Claudia, and I was leaving comments like, "Oh, and I don't like how they did that." But to your point, how are you really able to adjust to becoming in this spotlight? Like, how do you adjust to the fame? How do you adjust to the negative comments, especially when you get a negative comment and 1,000 plus people like it? Like, did that affect you in any way, your psyche or anything, your confidence?
No. Not, it not affected me in a way where like anything changed. I think the biggest adjustment was I'm used to like real life. So it's like if you got a problem, I'm gonna see you and we're gonna figure it out when I see you. And the more you grow and the more things you realize you have to lose, you can't be like that. So like I'm like, and then it's like my family is like that too. So they in the comments, they arguing, they calling me, they're like, yo, what's up with this person? Why they say this? And I'm like, and all that adds to the noise. So what I had to do was I had to really take a step back and just realize where I was at. And I've been preparing to be, I've always like, nothing about me is ever small. Like I feel like everything you do should be big, and even if it is small to some people, you treat it like it's big because it's going to get you to that next big thing. So for me, everything I've ever done prepares me for what I'm going to do. So there were so many different points of my life that I've been preparing for this moment and for the the things that you guys are watching, that like I just was able to pull from that. But a lot of it in real life is just like, you just got to go through it to get through it. So like I had to, be in the comments a little bit for to come in, and like Charlemagne used to always call me and be like when we knew we would have a big interview moment, or if I would say something that people were definitely going to hate or anything, he would call me and be like, and don't be in them comments today. I would get off my phone. Like I would literally leave my phone. I would not be in my notifications for 24 48 hours, whatever I had to do. And you just had to like, I just had to learn, like, and just kind of, you're in a new house, you gotta get a little comfortable. I had to bring the furniture into the new crib. Now I think I'm at a point where like I still see things, and a lot of majority of things are positive, and I focus on that. But I think as a human, when you do see that stuff and you're not used to people caring so much about you personally, it's like, oh shoot. But now I'm in a space where I'm like, I just go to work. I go to work. I go home. That's it. And I also realized too, where I'm beginning to realize, like with the platform that I'm on, it's so big and it's so impactful. People just take shots just because of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I've worked really hard to get to where I'm at. Am I going to give people that? Doesn't matter. I have enough dealing with, am I getting enough sleep? Am I able to show up personality wise as a full person because I'm doing so much more now? I can't focus on like, people and what they're saying and things of that nature in a way where like it affects how I do my job.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just like been an adjustment, but I've just adjusted. Like I didn't have a choice because I wasn't about the not about the, you know what I mean? You can't trick me on my spot. That's not happening.
So, speaking of adjusting, you are feeling, you're in a really big seat. What's the vibe like? Because on camera, when we're watching the show, your chemistry with Charlemagne, Envy, and Jess is undeniable. Like the banter back and forth, it's always given like, especially Charlemagne and Envy, is always giving little sister vibes. Like they gonna take a shot at you any chance they get. What's it really like in the studio? What's that vibe like?
I think it's what you see on camera. I'm very much, and I think Jess, Envy, and Charlemagne are also like this too. What you see is what you get. You know what I'm saying? So like if it wasn't like that, you would see it. And y'all have seen, you know what I mean? We've been through our things, but it's family. Like we actually have a good time together. We actually hang out outside of here. We go to different things together. So it's literally what you see. Like we sit in here and we laugh and we joke all day after the show is over. Like literally, like we just got done doing that. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that that adds into the chemistry that you see on air. And none of this is scripted. Like I'll come in and I'll know what I'm talking about. I have my bullet points, my notes, my facts, my quotes, my whatever. When Jess is doing her Just with the Mess, she don't even know sometimes all of the callers that are calling in. When Envy is doing, just his segue throughout the whole show, or like he doesn't know what moments are going to happen and where he should lean in. Charlemagne may know his donkey today, but he doesn't know how anyone in the room is going to react. None of this is scripted. So what you're seeing in real time is just how we are in real time being brought onto the show, and it just works. You know what I'm saying? Like it is what it is. Like it is what you see.
I think that authenticity is what really keeps us watching and draws us in because it really feels like we're just sitting in a living room with you guys and just learning and talking about what's going on. But to your point, it is a family and families do feud sometimes. We all did see that public dispute you had with Jess. How are you able to maintain your professionalism and bounce back and still be able to get on the show and have a great time with her, now a few weeks later?
Cause it's family. Like that's what I got a little brother right now who get on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? But if my brother call me, I'm coming, and don't have my brother call me about you. Like it's that vibe. And also too, I think it's and not or. Like it's and like it's all of us, like and not or. And that's just what I'm sticking to. And I think, and I've done a lot of interviews where I've talked about this, but you'll probably be the last person I talk about this with because at this point I can't even say it unless I say it in another language. There's nothing else you're gonna get from me as far as this situation. But it was a real situation. People go through their things. People go through their. Can I cuss on here? I'm not gonna cuss. It's Black Enterprise. Be Black excellence. But people go through their things, and it happens, and you get through it. I think as a producer and a content creator, and all of us are content creators in this room. I think the beauty of what you guys got to witness was like there's like this whole movement a lot of times where it's like female and woman and black women empowerment, right? But nobody talks about what happens when you're not feeling your homegirl, when you're not feeling your sister, when you know what I mean? Or if it's just simple, small miscommunications or, like third parties or whatever the case may be, no one talks about that. And in real time, we got to talk about that. And we got to show you guys what it's like for two black women to be like, yeah, but we here and we gonna do this because we actually are good together. It's and not or. And that's just what it is.
Okay, last thing, because we definitely got to talk about the latest with Loren LoRosa. But whose idea was it to do the Job is Mine parody? That skit was brilliant. And you look so much like Brandy. So I was just like, this was perfect.
You know what? When me and Jess, we were at this Women's History Month event for iHeart, and we took a picture with Angie Martinez. And when she posted it, we were just already talking to her behind the scenes. Like she was just, filling our cups and giving us encouragement because she's just that girl. Like Angie Martinez is like really one of them ones. Somebody had commented on the photo and was like, yo, y'all should do The Boy Is Mine. Because this was after all this stuff. And she showed us and she was like, yo, y'all should really do this. And then she started talking. She was like, but y'all should make it funny. Like, Jess, you could write the script. And I'm like, yeah, we just get the shoes from Amazon. Like, it was Angie Martinez's comments actually that encouraged it. But she is who gave us a nudge, like, yo, that would be funny. And it would be a perfect way for people to see what I'm experiencing in real time. Like y'all like each other for real. Like this isn't just like, okay, we're here. And we did it and it worked. And I didn't expect it to go as crazy as it went. Like when I saw it on Billboard, I was like, Jess was talking about she was somewhere in one of the Carolinas and she said they was playing it on the radio. I was like, what? Like, I might have
What?
sung a little better if I had known. You know what I'm saying? Because I was in there, I was giving like slight vocals fresh off a tour, had to drink my tea. But if I had known, I would have been giving like full moon. Could it be
Right.
a full moon?
That part exactly, girl. No, but it was so funny, and it definitely hit and put the drama to rest. And I think it was a great lead up to the launch of your own podcast because everybody was talking. And then weeks later, you launched the latest with Loren LoRosa on iHeartMedia and of course on Charlemagne's The Black Effect podcast network. So tell us when and how this came about.
So we had actually been in conversation about this for some time. My first go around guest hosting, I came to them and was like, "Y'all, I want to do a podcast. I want my own show." But I think I was still trying to figure out what my lane was, or like I knew what my lane was, but I was still getting comfortable with doing it on my own and not standing behind a brand to do it. So the second time around, when I came back to fill in for Jess for her maternity leave, I went back again and was like, "Y'all, I really want to do a show. I just don't know exactly what it is." And this is when we knew, like, okay, I was going to be here as a producer, so I'm like, I'll be here as a producer. I think it'll make a lot of sense because I've been, now I'm a part of Breakfast Club and like, we're figuring these things out. And as a unit, we were just like, you know what, it makes sense for you to do a continuation of what you do on the Breakfast Club because you can't get everything in there. And it's already, three people, Envy, Charlotte, Jess. So everybody has to have their like thing that they do. So it'd be perfect for you. So we had been talking about it. Everything just kind of happened at once. My launch date for the podcast was actually supposed to be a week before. So it would have been before anything, like any Instagram live, anything. And people thought that was all planned. And I'm like, first of all, the fact that y'all calling me an industry plant and think that I planned me and Jess got together and collaborated this to make the podcast conversation bigger, like that, like, okay, so when they said that about people, that means you doing well. So I'm like, okay, bad. But no, like it was not that, it just happened that way. I was supposed to launch the show a week before that, but I didn't like the art, the podcast art, like the photo and the text and all of that. I'm really anal about graphics. So it took us some more time to get that together. So it pushed it to a different date. And then boom, here we are.
There you are. And you do it so well. Like I said, I was telling you off air, like all that information, the fact that you are always calling folks, you're getting right information, you're speaking directly to the source is super refreshing, I think. And I'm pretty sure, you got a lot of that skill set from TMZ. You were there
Mhm.
prior for about 7 to 8 years. Some websites say 7, some say 8. So I wanted to ask you, how long have you were actually at TMZ, and what is it that you learned from TMZ that prepared you for your role today?
I got the job at the end of 2016. So it was like December 2016. I remember because I posted a video on my YouTube channel saying I quit my job at Delta and I had on a Santa hat with the TMZ tour bus shirt. And then yeah, so 2016 going into 2017. So how long, and I left in 2023.
So we just do the math, 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So but yeah, I learned a lot there. Like I think what I do is like is in you, it's not on you. Or it's on, what did they be saying? It's
That's
on you, not in you. It's in you, not on you. What I'm basically saying is like if you got it, you got it. Like what I do as far as like being able to understand where are the holes in the story, what do people want to know? I can literally sit and watch people talk and be like, okay, that'll make a good clip. That'll like I've always been able to do that. Like I've always been able to play the internet very well. But I just didn't know how to center myself as the person that, you know what I mean, was like the topic. And I've learned that recently, in all of this transition with the Breakfast Club. But getting to TMZ made everything sharper for sure. Like I tell people that was like the master's program that I didn't know I needed. I wanted to go to school to get my master's, and I might still do that. But being at TMZ was definitely that. I learned everything from like cold calling to producing a story up as far as visuals and photos and videos and exclusives and understanding that the legality behind things like my oh my god, like I owe a lot of my polishing and my sharpening to my time in that newsroom. A newsroom is tough in general because it's very fast paced. You got to keep up. There's not really too much training or explaining because you can't train. You just got to see if a person has it or not. So you throw them in and they sink or they swim. And I swim. And at first, it was slow paddles. And I started off PAing and assistant producer and then senior news producer. But now we here and we backstroking with the Breakfast Club. So
I know that's right. Period. Why
Mhm.
did you want to leave TMZ at that time in 2023?
I just didn't see any more growth for me there in a way that I wanted to grow. Like, there was other things I could have did there, but I wanted to build the profile of who Loren LaRosa was. I really wanted to act, and I felt like I couldn't do that with, being in a newsroom, which is crazy because I ended up back in a full-time news gig. But this with Breakfast Club is different. Like, they allow you to do other things because it benefits the show. TMZ wasn't really that like outside world friendly. Like, they would let me do stuff, don't get me wrong, because they knew me. I was gonna do it regardless and say sorry later, but it wasn't how my life is now. But most importantly, coming back home closer to family was important. I'm the oldest in my family. It's just me and my little brother. And my mom's older. She, stage 4 cancer survivor. I told you at the time when I came back over here, my last straw was my grandma having that slight heart attack, and I was so far. I couldn't get here, and I'm the decision maker. So I was like, I gotta get back closer to home. Um, and being at TMZ I don't know, I was just done with it. It was time for me to grow. Business wise, it was time for me to grow. Personally, it was time for me to grow. And I'd had my resignation letter for a couple months. And one day God was just like, girl, send a letter. And I was like, all right, bet, send.
And did you already have the Breakfast Club lined up when you resigned?
I didn't have it lined up when I resigned. I had been in conversation and, it was like yeah, we're going to try and figure it out. We're going to try and get you a day. But I didn't have an actual date. Like, I had been following up. Uh they proposed the date. That date changed a couple times. So I was kind of worried. I'm like, okay, this ain't going to come through. But for me, I was going to leave regardless if Breakfast Club guest hosting happened or not, because I knew that also I was looking out in the market and I was like, okay, you have people that are journalists and they're working at outlets or .coms. You have people that are online, like academics, and they're streaming, but they don't vet and they don't understand what the journalist is doing over here. There's no one in that middle point who's like, can do both, but also like is really around. People trust them. All we had was Wendy at one point.
Yep.
Wendy wasn't on air anymore. Like, so I was like, you know what? I feel like the time is now. Like, if I don't lean in and build this space for myself, somebody else gonna do it. And I don't know if my noise gonna be louder than theirs. So I gotta go now. Like, I saw the open hole in the market and I just jumped. I just did it.
You went for it. We love that. And, when it comes to your new podcast that you have, the latest with Loren LoRosa, what is it that you're most excited about? Like, what makes you so excited about this podcast, this show?
I think at first I was excited to just have my own. Like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, and it's a great partnership with Black Effect. Like, I feel supported. I don't feel like that was another thing with TMZ. Because they had offered me that we were working on a podcast and a couple other things, but there was no payments. I just felt so like it's not mine. You guys own it. I have to say so creatively, but like financially, I'm gonna always be fighting to figure it out. With Black Effect, it's like, financially, I'm supported. I see, where the growth will happen and I know it will happen. But now that I'm actually doing it and I'm almost, a month out, I feel like the biggest thing I'm excited about right now is like it's teaching me so much about who I am as a producer and who I am in faith. Like, first the first day of the podcast looks so different than the day I'm about to go and record right now. And a lot of that is just me knowing, okay, first day, first week out, it may look like this. And this is a new space. You don't understand a lot of what you're doing. You thought you knew until you got in and did it. But now, fourth week out, you're here and things are developing and you're taking the feedback and you're understanding what team you need in it. Because Black Effect really allows you to kind of just like create and figure it out. And I think at first I wanted a situation where it was like, give me the producers, make it structured. I just walk in, be cute, and I talk. Now I'm like so grateful that this podcast experience has been like everything else in my life where I've really had to do the work. I've really had to produce. I've really had to put together a team. I've really had to, you know what I mean? Like, even figure out like, right now we're working on like my at home. This is my set where I'm always at, where you always see me when I'm home. Even that, down to creatively designing that and taking that time with it. Like, there was so much to this that I couldn't have anticipated until I got into it. And it makes me excited now to be doing that. Like, I really feel like I'm pouring everything into it and that the people are going to feel that. And when I run into people, like when I was at the Black Effect Podcast Festival, I met mad girls who was like, yo, like, I really like, I've been trying to figure out, like, what my lane of things is, and as a journalist, like, it kind sometimes it get a little stuffy and a little boring, like, you're doing the fun things, but you're doing it well, and you're doing it, like and they see themselves in me, and I was like, "Yo, that's crazy." Like, I just be at work. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to produce a good product. But there's so many people who are like, no, like it's more than that. So that makes me excited too. So every day when we upload, I'm excited to see what the feedback is, excited that my audience has grown with me and they're saying that, the improvements they see over time, and just people getting the good information, because that's what I'm about for real.
How comfortable are you sharing a different side of yourself? Because we do see you, you get emotional. You have gotten emotional on your podcast and shed some tears. Is that something that's intentional? Are you trying to be more vulnerable and transparent, or was that just a moment?
I've always been like that. Like if you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Loren LoRosa TV, I've been vlogging my journey since the first day I moved to LA. And I've cried there. I quit my job today. I'm broke as hell. I got about $100 to my name. Here's what I'm gonna tell myself when I get to $500,000. You know what I mean? Like I've done all of that type of content. And in the time, I didn't even really think much of it because people didn't really know me. If you knew, you knew. But even that, like before the podcast, before Breakfast Club, even before TMZ, like I've met girls who've been like, yo, I moved to LA because of your vlogs, because of how honest you were about your journey. I felt like, okay, this not gonna be perfect, but I can figure it out. So I've always been that way. I've actually had to learn how to get back into being that way, because when everything hit with the Breakfast Club, you get a little secluded because it's like, oh shoot, it's so much at once, yo. Like it's like opinions and this and this and this. So it's like you kind of just want to protect your peace and what's yours. Now that I've learned how to still protect my peace and what's mine and the people that I love, and be, you know what I mean, back vulnerable and all that, I'm coming back out. But I've been like this though since for years, like forever. Even when I was just uploading videos on Instagram when Instagram first got videos, and I was vlogging in college. I've always been like this. Like if you have a story, you should tell it because it's a testimony. That's always been my mantra.
Amazing. Well, Lauren, I know you have a busy schedule and a busy day. If you could just let us know how we can all watch the latest with Loren LaRosa.
So you can listen on the audio side. We go live every morning at 6 a.m. anywhere you get your podcast. Just search the latest with Loren LaRosa. And then if you want to check out the video, and I will say, if you listen to the audio, you get some exclusive, things that only happen on the audio side. And if you watch the video, you get some things that only are going to happen on the video side. So you can watch both. But later in the day by 6 p.m. Is typically when we post the YouTube videos for the episodes, each episode. But if you are there and you're locked in and you're subscribed to me on Loren LaRosa TV, or you're subscribed on the audio side for the latest with Loren LaRosa, anywhere you get your podcast, you'll get the alert and then boom, click it. Now you're in a whole new world of exclusive celebrity news and all the good breakdowns and all the good, information.
Definitely, y'all. If you haven't already been tuned in, make sure you tune in because, like Lauren just said, she's giving you the inside scoop. She's talking directly to the sources, and you're really getting a complete story. And I love again what you do and how you do it, Lauren. So thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you for having me.